Hi, this is Ben Ivey, the fulfillment artist. This video, we're going to be diving into 8 reasons why people don't change and what we can do about it. I work with people all over the world. Some people get changes straight away. Some people do not. Okay, there are some people that don't. Now, why? Because they've got things that are blocking them. Now, don't get me wrong. We overcome these issues. However, there's usually, these 8 core things that often keep people stuck, where they don't do what's necessary in order to really make the shift. And I want to explain these to you so maybe you can see yourself in them and you can prevent this happening, and you can also understand what to do. But also, if there's someone that you want to influence, if there's someone that you really want to impact, by understanding these 8 things, it will allow you to also have a bigger impact in them. So, the first thing that I want to do is a quote, and that is from Sigmund Freud, right? Most people do not really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility. And most people are frightened by responsibility. So true. Sigmund Freud, high five, my man, true. Most people are scared to take complete responsibility for their life, and it is such a shame. However, I'm going to go on to that later. First one, they live in the past or the future. There's a lot of people, for example, who are feeling depressed. If you're depressed, you're living in the past. People in the past, they just look at what used to happen. Oh, my life used to look like this. This is what it's not going to be the same. And if you meet someone who's achieved a lot and then lost it, and they keep living in the past, they will never move forward. There's other people that just live in the future. Oh, but what happens if this happens? And they're very anxious people. So often the reason that they're stuck is they're just living in a different place. Like when they sit down, all they focus on is either the past or the future. Now, it is important to focus on the future to some level and to the past so you can learn. But if you live there, you're never going to shift. So it's really important. So what do? You learn to live in the present. Start enjoying and taking in the things around you. Start going in nature, ground yourself. Actually be there, listen to people, and allow you to start moving your life forward at present day, as opposed to comparing a square 1 to a circle 50 or a triangle 1, right? It's important to not compare our lives to a life previously or to someone else and be living in this past when the present is all we ever have, right? As Eckhart Tolle says, right? We have the power of now, and now, and now, and now. Next, they get stuck in old patterns. This is really common. If you see someone that wants to change and goes back, right? They lose weight and then they gain weight again. They just get back to old patterns. And the most common thing I see is that people want to stop something without starting something else, right? So you've got to install a new routine. If someone's stuck in a pattern, you need to help them shift forward and make a new routine that helps solidify exactly the changes that they want to make. So for example, let's say you want to get over someone, right? Yeah, I was working with someone who was struggling to get over a previous partner, right? If all they do is focus on the previous partner, they're never going to get over them. Right? Then one day he started going on dates, and guess what? Suddenly it's much easier. Right, why? Because we're starting to follow through. There's a new routine. You're starting to do things differently, and you're starting to not focus on things that sort of aren't right and on these old routines and patterns that they used to have. Next, people give up after a few failures. This is common. I see people come and it was good, but then you know what? I fell off track. I went back to my old self. Okay, sure you did. For how long? I don't know, a minute? How long were you your new self for? And this is where we have to overcome the survival instinct of the mind, because it's easy for us to look at what is wrong, harder to see what's right. So in order to create that persistence, which is ultimately what we want to create, instead of saying, having these failures, we want to establish that we are already making progress, and the way to do that is to acknowledge the small steps along the way. If you find you give up after a few failures, it may be that you don't acknowledge your progress. You have your end goal, and you are here, and you are making progress, but then you fail. Ultimately, what you want to see is that. However, if you start measuring the small steps along the way, it will allow you to really start to gain that persistence, that determination to follow through. Chinese, for example. Oh my God, I used to give up after a few failures, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do vocab, right? How much vocab have I learned? I learned 1,000, now I'm on 1,001. Progress. Now I'm on 998. That's okay, we can make it back. 998 that are well learned, better learned than the previous. So I start to create this progress, and that has been an amazing thing to help keep me on track. Like so important. Next, some people don't make the changes they need because they believe they are their mind. Let me say that again. If you believe you are your mind, you won't create the changes you want in your life. This is what I mean. The mind, right, is built for survival, as I've said before. It looks for things that are wrong. Now, if you believe you're your mind, then it's going to be very confusing for you. Because as meditation will teach you to watch the mind, I want to teach you to direct the mind. Because the mind, you can't control, like, if I told you to shut off your mind and to think of nothing, or think, ask yourself the question, what will be my next thought? And then a thought will appear. Because the mind just is the mind. That's it. So instead of believing that they're the mind, if you can distinguish between the higher self and the mind, like what you really want to do, and then the mind starts telling you, oh, but what if you're not good enough? What was it this? And if you can distinguish between those two voices, and you can make that connection, where you can say, okay, you know what? I know what I want. I'm going to go do it. Yeah, great advice, mind. Let's go do it anyway. That will really allow you to progress. It's one of the key things that keeps people back. It's because they remain stuck in that same pattern. So you've got to be able to overcome that. Next, your environment is preventing change. So what do I mean by this? Well, there's some people that remain stuck because their environment is just not the right environment. Let's say you want to, I don't know, go keto, right? I'm going to do a keto diet soon where basically you limit your carbs, you have fats and protein. If I attempted to do this whilst, I don't know, working at Domino's, or when I was in an environment of a house full of bread and chocolates and things like that, it would be much harder. If I can tailor my environment so I only have those things around me, then it would be nice and easy. So this is where you have to have your environment to support you. Create an empowering environment towards where you want to be, right? People that will attend my seminars, they make that environment. They have a huge vision board which they create for themselves. They start to see things. They start to tailor their environment. Now, I'm telling you now, the reason that I can stay on track consistently is because no matter where I am my environment. And let me explain what I mean by this. Wherever I am, I have everything in place. I have journals, I've got notebooks, I've got my laptop, I've got my phone, I've got stands, and I have everything with me. I then make sure I have a gym, that's part of my environment. I make sure that I have calls with my friends, that's part of my environment. So tailoring that environment to empower you is of fundamental importance. If you've got friends that are drops of poison, if you have people, if you've got things around you, if you have, another great one, games on your phone. Right? Games are so addictive on phones, it's ridiculous. If it's on my phone, I will play it. If it's not, I won't. Very simple. So I just delete it. And this is where you have to tailor your environment. It's a really simple thing, but people forget to. Next, and this is so important. People believe that the power is out of their hands. I had a client recently, she was saying, I've always been looking for someone to influence me. And what I told her is people can influence you to an extent. However, true change comes from when you learn to influence yourself. When you realize that the power is at the end of your own hand to make the changes. Because once you do that, then you take full responsibility. When I look into the Sigmund Freud quote earlier, most people are scared to do that. They believe, oh yeah, but I want someone else to help me. I want someone else to help me. And one of the things that I teach any client that I work with is, look, you are responsible for your results. No one else is. I could show you the quickest way to Everest. The quickest way. I could show you that's the route you've got to take. But you've still got to climb it yourself. Does that make sense? So it's really important for the people that you want to influence that you get them to take 100% responsibility. Next, this is common. People don't have enough pain to change. Number 7. So what do I mean by this? In order for people to change, usually it's pain, not pleasure, generally speaking. It's usually pain, maybe 9 times out of 10 is usually what shifts people. You speak to someone that, why are you healthy? I don't want to get fat. Why did you shift? Because this bad thing happened to me and I wanted to change. Now, for someone that wants to lose weight but isn't following through, maybe the pain isn't big enough. Maybe they haven't thought about, I'm going to catch diabetes. Maybe I won't get to see my grandchildren. Maybe there are things that if I don't change now, will never change. Like I must do something right now in order to shift this, because if I don't, then I'm going to be stuck in the same habit. And this is where it's of like fundamental importance for you to help them get the why. Understand that pain, but really have that why to follow through. Because if they follow through and they really start to make those tangible steps in the right direction, life becomes so much easier for them. Because they've got the why. It's the fuel in their engine. If they're not following through on the changes, it's often because there's not enough pain, so you have to stack the leverage, get the pain, and get them shift it up their arms and fucking go. You know what I mean? and then they start actually doing something. Last one, number 8. This is where they lack a compelling future. And this is very interesting. When people are depressed, when they're suicidal, when they're lost, usually it's because they lack a compelling future. Let me explain what I mean by this. Those that are feeling unsure in their life, they often feel stuck. There's nothing to look forward to. They don't believe that a future is exciting for them, so for them, they get stuck in, you know what, life isn't going to be as good as the past. I'm stuck. I'm just going to stay where I am. Now, if instead you can help them create a future that would be extraordinary, what would a fucking phenomenal future look like? What would a future look like that was just amazing? And you can start to craft that where they believe it, right? It's all good at creating it, but if they don't believe it, it doesn't matter for diddly squat. They need to create something that they're compelled towards, something that excites them. And if they do that, then they really start to shift. Now, these 8 are the most common that I see with the people that I work with that often, keeps them safe. Often I find that they're valuing comfort and security over creating the changes that they want. So for you watching this, I challenge you to maybe look introspectively into yourself and think, is there any other changes that I need to make here? And perhaps as well, think, how can I influence someone? Because remember this, you can't change anyone. You can influence them though. I can't force a donkey to drink water, but I could make him think that he's thirsty. So I challenge you, for the people that you really want to influence in your life, if you want to influence yourself, use some of these tools and strategies and make the changes happen. I hope you found this video helpful. Comment with one of your strategies that you think often keeps people stuck. If I didn't mention it here, I'd love to hear what you think, and I look forward to chatting to you soon.